What's going on, everyone? Ring Rumble is back again, bringing you another packed roundup of wrestling news and rumors that have been making serious waves. So settle in as we dive into some of the craziest developments you need to hear about, including the real reason Chris Jericho reveals why he rejected WWE, Randy Orton's shocking mystery exposed, WWE prepares for an unforgettable WrestleMania, a top star forced to miss the show, and an AEW wrestler left homeless, plus much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos. And honestly, which of these stories are you most curious about right now? Let me know as we jump straight into it, starting with the real story behind Chris Jericho rejecting WWE. Kicking things off with one of the biggest talking points in wrestling right now as we look at what really went down following Chris Jericho's return to AEW television, because his comeback instantly shut down months of speculation that he might be heading back to WWE for one final run before calling it a career. And naturally, a lot of WWE fans didn't take that news too well, since many were hoping to see him back on that stage one more time. So the big question becomes, why exactly did Jericho choose AEW over WWE, and what factors influenced that decision? And believe it or not, there are several key reasons that could explain everything. So let's break them down one by one, starting with the possibility that Jericho simply declined WWE's offer outright, because according to multiple reports, including information from Fightful Select, there were indeed discussions between Jericho and WWE in recent months, meaning this wasn't just rumor or speculation. The talks were very real. However, despite those conversations, nothing concrete ever materialized in terms of creative direction. And that's a major detail, because Jericho reportedly wasn't scheduled for any major events like the Raw on Netflix anniversary show, the Royal Rumble, or even the Elimination Chamber. So that raises an interesting question. If WWE didn't have a clear plan for him, would you have come back in his position, or would you have stayed where you're already valued? It's possible that the offer itself didn't meet expectations, or that there were creative disagreements that couldn't be resolved. And whatever the exact reason, this development effectively ends the rumors that Jericho was set to make a surprise return at the Royal Rumble. Moving on to another strong possibility, which is that Jericho wants to finish his career in AEW. And this one actually makes a lot of sense when you consider his history with the company, because Jericho isn't just another name on the roster. He's one of the foundational figures who helped establish AEW in its early days, and that kind of legacy isn't something you just walk away from easily. So it's entirely believable that he wants to close out his in-ring career in this same place where he played such a crucial role. And if you were in his shoes, would you go back to your old company for nostalgia or stay loyal to the place you helped build? It's a tough call, but clearly Jericho seems to know what matters most to him. Another factor to consider is his potential concern about the current WWE environment, which has changed dramatically since his last run there. Because with Vince McMahon no longer in charge, the company is now being led creatively by Triple H. And while that's been a positive shift for many talents, it also introduces a layer of uncertainty for someone like Jericho, who didn't always see eye to eye with Triple H in the past. So it's not unrealistic to think that this history may have influenced his decision. Although, to be fair, Triple H has shown growth in his leadership role by repairing relationships with names like CM Punk and even Scott Steiner, so maybe things could have been different this time around, but still, it's something worth thinking about. And finally, there's the issue of Jericho's outside projects, which appear to have played a significant role in his choice, because reports indicate that Jericho wasn't willing to give up his commitments outside of wrestling, such as his music and other ventures, and WWE likely would have required that level of exclusivity if he returned, which creates a major conflict. So if you had multiple successful projects outside of wrestling, would you put them on hold just for one last run, or would you prioritize your freedom? Jericho seems to have made his stance pretty clear here, and while he may be staying with AEW for now, this doesn't necessarily close the door on a future WWE Hall of Fame induction, which feels almost inevitable when he finally retires. And honestly, can you imagine WWE not taking that opportunity when the time comes? It would be shocking if they didn't. Shifting gears now to a developing situation involving Randy Orton, as the mystery surrounding him appears to be reaching its conclusion very soon, with all indications pointing toward a reveal taking place on SmackDown. And the intrigue only deepened after a cryptic phone call was posted on Orton's social media, where he hinted that everything is set for Friday in St. Louis. And eagle-eyed fans noticed a framed photo of his father, Bob Orton, in the background, which has sparked speculation that he could be the mystery figure involved in this storyline. although there are still rumors floating around suggesting that Vince McMahon could somehow be connected to the angle, but at this point there's no solid confirmation backing that up, so we're left guessing until the official reveal. And let me ask you this, who do you think it should be? Bob Orton for a legacy moment or a shocking twist with someone unexpected? Moving on to WrestleMania talk, as the card is finally starting to come together, and there's growing confidence that WWE might deliver a truly memorable event this year. Especially after Cody Rhodes addressed his earlier comment about the show being a so-called sleeper WrestleMania during an interview with Busted Open Radio, because he admitted that he didn't quite express himself the way he intended at the time, explaining that what he really meant was that the event would shine through its in-ring quality rather than just hype. And when you look at the matches being teased, including names like Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and others, it's easy to see why there's optimism building, especially considering last year's WrestleMania didn't exactly blow everyone away. So this year presents a clear opportunity to raise the bar. And do you think this WrestleMania can outperform the previous one, or are expectations being set too high? Sticking with Cody Rhodes for a moment, as he also made headlines for his comments about the current WWE roster, where he didn't hold back in claiming that nobody can match his schedule or his level of commitment, essentially putting himself forward as the hardest working star in the company, and reinforcing why he's positioned as the face of the brand. And while statements like that are bound to stir debate among fans and possibly even among other wrestlers, there's definitely some truth to it when you consider how frequently Rhodes appears across media, live events, and television. So the question is, do you agree with him, or do you think there's someone else in WWE grinding just as hard behind the scenes? Now, let's talk about a surprising revelation involving AJ Styles and his retirement, which may not have been as widely known internally as you'd expect, because Finn Balor recently shared that he only learned about Styles' plans to retire shortly before it actually happened during a Raw taping in Germany, which caught him completely off guard since he originally thought AJ would continue until later in the year. And it turns out that Styles himself may not have been fully certain about retiring at that exact moment until things ultimately fell into place leading up to the Royal Rumble. And doesn't that make you wonder how many big decisions in wrestling are made at the last minute without anyone knowing? It really adds a layer of unpredictability to everything. Unfortunately, not all news is positive, as it appears that a popular WWE star will be missing WrestleMania this year, with Chelsea Green confirming in a recent interview that although she's excited about the event, she'll be watching it as a fan rather than competing, which is disappointing given the rumors that she could have been involved in a major title match. And now it looks like WWE may pivot to a different direction, possibly turning that rumored triple threat into a singles match instead. So how big of a loss do you think this is for the WrestleMania card? Would you have liked to see her included, or are you okay with the change? Moving forward, we have some candid comments from Carmelo Hayes, who spoke openly about how unpredictable wrestling crowds can be, particularly in NXT, where he described the audience as constantly shifting their support depending on who's hot at the moment, suggesting that no one truly owns the crowd for long. And it's an interesting perspective because it highlights just how quickly fan reactions can change in this industry. One minute you're on top, and the next the spotlight moves on to someone else. So do you think fans are too quick to switch sides, or is that just part of what makes wrestling exciting? Taking a more somber turn now, as we send our thoughts to Drew McIntyre, who recently shared the heartbreaking news of losing his longtime cat, Chaz, a companion he had for nearly 20 years, which clearly meant a great deal to him. And moments like this remind us that beyond the characters we see on screen, these are real people dealing with real emotions. So if you've ever lost a pet, you probably understand just how tough that can be. And finally, we close things out with a concerning situation involving AEW wrestler Willie Mack, whose recent social media posts have raised alarms about his current status, as he suggested that a lack of bookings could potentially leave him facing homelessness, which is a serious claim that quickly got fans talking. And additional reports have provided some context, explaining that while Mack is still under contract, his deal has shifted back to a per-appearance arrangement after previously being on a full-time salary, meaning he only gets paid when he actually works shows.
And that kind of change can obviously create financial instability, especially if bookings are limited. And although AEW has reportedly been in contact with him, the full details of those discussions remain unclear. So it leaves a lot of unanswered questions about how situations like this are handled behind the scenes. And it also raises a broader issue about the structure of these tiered contracts and whether they truly provide enough security for talent. So what do you think? Should companies do more to protect wrestlers in these situations, or is this just part of the business? And there you have it. Those are some of the most talked about stories and rumors making headlines right now in the wrestling world. Plenty to unpack and even more to debate. So make sure you share your thoughts because your opinions always add to the conversation. And I'll catch you next time with more updates and discussions from the world of wrestling.